I love all, I mean, the thing for me, and we've sort of, I guess, put together a package of different references, is like it's really important that this isn't a fantasy game, that the characters, you know, both the story characters, but also the enemies are as real as possible, and definitely wanted to stay away from any fantasy cliches on what the enemies are. And Tolkien had this line, which was, "We were all orcs in the Great War," which is basically saying orc personality is human personality, but it's what human beings become in very specific circumstances. It's what some sort of human beings become when they're driven by fear and domination and power. So, you know, humans in the trenches, humans in prison, humans in Russian gulags, like, you know, I don't know, probably gang members in certain societies. So we want them to feel very, very real and very, very human, but obviously pushed to a particular type of an extreme, and pushed to an extreme where their society becomes ruled by power and dominance and infighting and that pecking order. So, you know, a lot of the analogies we looked at were really like prison movies, or, you know, westerns or gang movies, but we want them to feel very, very real, and to simulate that they're constantly battling against each other, and they're constantly trying to prove their dominance and power and backstabbing, and which is, you know, I think makes them very interesting as personalities, because we can push everything about them to extremes to try and make them memorable and really make them cool villains. But it also makes for a very dynamic game environment as well, a really dynamic sandbox.
So it's kind of tough to humanize an extreme.
I guess it depends on, you know, what sort of films you look at. So Tarantino is something that we looked at a lot, and Tarantino films are, you know, I guess very much about taking an archetype and cranking it up. So I almost think they are very human, but they're humans taking to extremes, which helps us to make them memorable and really iconic.
What was interesting is that Mike gave us all these books as references, and we were expecting, you know, me and my team working with me on this game, we were expecting Dungeons and Dragons books and this sort of like, and we got World War I books and soldiers in the trenches and prison gangs dictionaries and
Russian prisoner tattoos.
Yes, and so gulags. And it was extremely interesting, because once you leave the idea of the little creature with the pointy ears and the green skin behind, and it becomes just another mirror for ourselves, then it becomes simultaneously easier to write and also more challenging, because then now what you can do is really like how does a person go there? And when a person goes there, it's an orc. And of course, like Mike said, sometimes you have to crank it up a notch or two, but you're still starting from a base of humanity.
We went back and looked at Tolkien, and there's a few good sort of studies of how he deals with evil. One of the things that really comes out, actually, even if you go back and look at the films and actually break down the dialogue of the orcs, is that they're not stupid. You know, so I think, again, a lot of the sort of zog, you know, preconceptions of them aren't even in, you know, certainly aren't in Tolkien's work. There's only like, I think, 6 lines of dialogue from the orcs in all of Lord of the Rings. But what they do say, they actually do communicate that they have a sense of morality, just like humans do. But from their point of view, the other guys are the bad guys. I think when they find Frodo and he appears to be dead, it's like, oh, it's another elvish trick. You know, so talking to each other, their assumption is that the elves are deceitful and tricky and backstabbing. So just like there's no humans on Earth that don't see the other guys as the bad guys.
Right.
And so the orcs are exactly the same. They're not running around thinking we're the bad guys. They have convictions and they have morals, they just never live by them, you know, which is sort of the definition of evil. Everyone can criticize everybody else, but when it's on them, they're going to go to the easiest solution. So yeah, I think it was just, you know, writing them as real, as human.
And they're interesting. They build machines.
Yeah, they're not dumb.
They dig these mines. They light fires. They have like massive forges. They are industrious little characters. It's just like you said. They know the path, and then sometimes they just say, well, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just stab him in the back. It's faster, and and I'll be the hero for the day. Yeah. So they're just us when, you know, when you catch us with the hands in the cookie jar. They're always there in the cookie jar.
I think that equation of industrialization, like basically Sauron, modernization, industrialization, evil, black magic, the thing all of those have in common is it's not that your goals might be wrong, it's just that you're always going to take the shortest path to get there, you know, no matter what it trashes or pollutes or stomps on or pushes out of the way. One of the advantages of going to Mordor is really can intensify the environment. This is going to be the most dangerous, intense, competitive place. And the guys we're fighting against, the kind of crack troops that have moved back in, are the Orcs. So as in the movies, we see the Uruk Hai, which are Saruman's Orcs. So they're the most powerful, the largest, the toughest, the smartest sort of members of Orc society.
In the movie, they like dig them out of the ground, but these don't necessarily come from the ground, or what's the difference there? How does that work?
We could spend a lot of time going into different theories about the breeding or the manufacture of Orcs and Urks, but yeah, I think we can leave that as a mystery.
Are there female Orcs?
I knew that question was coming.
I know.
It's a big mystery that we've never gotten an answer to.